pal Emac coming to you on the final Saturday MLB regular season strategy show, brought to you by Jock Market as well as some Awesemo podcasts. We'll talk about those, but first let me introduce my friend and yours, Gundacker. What's going on, good sir?
You're not much. Last Saturday of the regular season, perhaps last time I got to wake up this early and talk some baseball, so that's a plus. But no, I'm excited, man. Some of these playoff races are getting really interesting. I guess really just one playoff race, but I guess the Dodgers and the Giants have been kind of interesting to sweat.
Yep. I couldn't make it up past 10 last night, so I did not see the Mariners lose. It looked like Boston was going to win. Of course, was rooting for the Mariners. Now they've dropped to a 20% chance to make the playoffs or the wild card there. Boston's up to 80. We're going to talk about all that as we go through because there is still some seeding potential. So we know players are probably going to try. There's also some playoff teams that cannot change their destiny. There's only 2 games left. They may be pulling starters early. Who even knows what their starting lineups are going to be? They could, Houston's not afraid to pull their people, their position players early as well. I don't think they have any ramifications, but I got it here in all my notes, so we'll cover that. We're going to skip the first game. It's really not on anything. It's the New York game. If you guys want to have information about that, we do have some free content for that in front of the paywall. We have our MLB player rankings today. We also have the MMA fighter rankings today, and then it is the NFL Big Board. The NFL Big Board is kind of interesting. It's useful for both season long and DFS. And basically what Alex does is he ranks the entire player pool for the main DFS sites, but their scoring. If you have half point or full point PPR, he's taking all of that into account. So you can kind of see where he's landing on some stuff. So it helps you maybe with some waiver claims or things of that nature, but it also helps you value players throughout the large slates if you're playing the Thursday through Monday or the Monday through Sunday, etc. There's not a lot of content geared to those particular slates, and this is one tool that definitely helps out with that. All right, let's get on into our first game here, Gundacker. We have a really busy day. So we're going to start off with Baltimore at Toronto. We've got John Means going against rookie Alek Manoah here. Manoah's kind of interesting in this one, getting my notes up. Toronto's still in the mix for the wild card. They are not assured, and I believe they actually need help. They need to win out, and they need Boston to lose one. So they have just under a 20% chance of getting the wild card. Pitching is relatively thin on this slate. We have a couple options, but again, there could be short hooks. While there could be a short hook with Manoah, it's more because they're trying to win the game. And if he gets in trouble, they're going to put the bullpen in and hope their offense gets them out of the trouble going against John Means. Toronto looks like full steam ahead here on both sides of the ball. What do you have for our first game, Gundacker?
Yeah, I got to assume that Alek Manoah becomes one of the more sought after pitchers because of what's at stake here. In our early top pitchers total, we got him at a 43% chance of being the top 2 pitcher with 51% ownership. So he's easily going to be the highest owned pitcher on the slate. Makes a lot of sense. The Orioles, while I think their offense is pretty scrappy, they still have a ton of strikeouts, especially to right-handed pitchers. Today, we might see a lineup with a cumulative, 24% K rate, if not even higher. So Manoah, it's a great spot for him metrically. But like you said, this is win or go home at this point. You have to walk away with these dubs. And the Blue Jays have been kind of dipping into their bullpen a little bit more than they probably want to over the course of the last 4 games. So they might trust the rookie for a little bit more than you might think. And also maybe their offense gives him a little bit of a cushion against John Means. The Blue Jays have a 5.4 implied run total. Orioles is 3.3. So if he's sitting on a 3-run lead in the 5th, 6th inning, maybe they don't hit the panic button. But if it is one of those games where Means is pitching pretty well, I think he's one of their best pitchers. Maybe they do think about bridging the gap there. But I like Manoah. All of our projections and our ownerships are also going to like and project Manoah high owned. Means I don't really have any type of infatuation, or I'm not enamored with playing him. Orioles have really nothing to play for it anyway, but I guess if you're a sicko and you love leverage, Means maybe is that guy, but I don't think I'm getting there.
All right. We do have some actually decent pitching on this slate. This slate is including the 5 games from 3 o'clock through 6 o'clock. We're also going to talk about Musgrove. We're going to talk about Gaussman, and then we have Tyler Mahle as well. So we do have options here. Late slate going to be a little thin. There's some weather concerns. There's some pitch count concerns because teams have clinched, and some of the actions will be determined by what happens during some of these day games. So there's a lot of moving parts here. We'll cover all of that as we continue through our lineups here. I want to remind you that we do have the College Football DFS Strategy Show on directly after us, taking you up for a Live Before Lock. I guess it's the College Football DFS Live Before Lock show, but definitely want to check out Ben Rossa and Matt Gajewski. You also want to check out our podcast, Betting You. It comes out every Wednesday with Matt and Ben breaking down the upcoming college football slate and what the best bets are, particularly player props. These guys are going to be way ahead of what the models are for the sports books, and they're going to tell you where the edges are. By the time we get to Saturday morning, they're going to be on the show saying, hey, this is now an okay bet because this person's going to, he's projected to rush for 78 yards, but I bet it on Wednesday when he was projected to rush for 57 yards, right? So you want to get those edges. That's one way to find it, is to listen to Betting You. That's free content out there, and there's nothing else out there quite like it. All right, our next game here, we have San Diego at San Francisco. Key thing about San Francisco, if they win today, basically they are in. They need to lose twice. The Dodgers need to win twice, and that would force game 163 to determine who is going to be the National League West champion and who goes in as the wild card with the second best record in the entire league. This is a crazy spot to be in. What do you got for this one, Gundecker?
First of all, I hope that happens. Maybe not so much for game 163, but tomorrow, as tradition, every game is at the same time. So it would just be fun to kind of have all that going on at the same time. And, Giants and Dodgers watching each other's scoreboard. Musgrove, man, he is the unpredictable guy all year long. I know my boy Eric has found frustration in trying to project whether or not Musgrove is going to have a good game or a bad game through and through. This is really one of those spots where, there's no reason for him to go deep. 5 innings is probably a ceiling expectation if I had to project him in 4 games against the Giants this season. He's only walked away with about 10 fantasy points per game, and going into Oracle on a team that, there's no greater motivated team here than the Giants trying to clinch the first place in their division. So it's a tough uphill battle for him. So I don't have a much interest in him. Not to say I wouldn't get to none. We got him at a 1-in-4 chance to being a top 2 pitcher with about 1-in-4 ownership. So that's about fair. It is a smaller slate, so maybe at the back end of the poll here. And then Kevin Gaussman, I'm fine with getting to him. I'm curious to see if the Padres have a lineup with both Machado and Tatis. We've kind of seen them stagger in the last couple games. Again, nothing to play for, no reason to risk injury by putting one of those guys out there. But Gaussman would, I think, be, other than Manoah, one of the more sought after pitchers on the slate. We got him at 30% ownership. So I would imagine Manoah and Gaussman is the atypical starting point to a lineup on the slate. And you do with that what you will based on your approach to leverage and ownership. But those seem like the 2 pitchers that are pitching for the most and have the highest ceiling and pitch count and inning potential based on what's at stake.
All right, next game, and we're going to keep a move on because some of these we are going to want to break down in depth because there will be some that are we're going to be going to. This is actually one of them. We have the Red Sox who control their wild card destiny. If they win out, they are in for the wild card. If they lose one of their next 2 games, they need the Mariners and Blue Jays to either lose both of theirs, or probably one of theirs, or the Yankees to lose both of theirs. So there's a lot of moving parts here, but the Red Sox do have an 80% chance right now of making the postseason. So they're in the driver's seat. As of yesterday, I think that was closer to 52%. So it jumped up quite a bit when they won and the Mariners lost last night. In this one, we have, I don't know who's going for Boston, but we have Josiah Gray going for the Nationals. Gray has he came over as part of that Max Scherzer and Trey Turner fire sale trade. He was supposed to be one of the better prospects in this trade. He's a decent pitcher. He has just absolutely been crushed by barrels, by hard hit balls, by home runs allowed. He's done a relatively good job of keeping the bases clean, and a lot for his first 4 or 5 starts, most of his home runs were solo shots. The wheels have fallen off the wagon now. I don't want to take him at all. I'm looking at the Red Sox against him, even though they'll be down the designated hitter. What are you thinking about this one? And do you have any line on the Red Sox pitcher?
I'm looking at Tanner Houck.
Okay.
I
did these at the ass crack of dawn after I also wrote my article this morning. I've been up since 6. You know what? A lot of sites don't have pitching up at 6 in the morning on a day like today. So just sorry, I may not have. There's one other game I was missing. So it wasn't that I didn't look for it. I've been looking for a while.
Yeah, the Red Sox are kind of weird, man. They have been kind of sleeping giants in the last week. They should have mollywopped the Orioles in 3 straight games. Only took 1, I believe. And then yesterday, it was a while before Hunter Renfroe woke things up, and they only put up 2 runs. So with Josiah Gray, he gives up a lot of barrels, but if you read between the tea leaves, there is some strikeout potential in him. 14.4% swinging strike rate as well. So a DH-less Red Sox, it wouldn't shock me if a 6,800 Josiah Gray maybe surprise some people. Obviously, the more realistic expectation here is for the Red Sox to act on their 5.2 implied run total and get through to Gray and take advantage of his home run weaknesses. But I'm just saying that the non-Yankee fan, contrarian mind in me, looking at the last week of Red Sox baseball, would not be surprised if Josiah Gray was not down. I shut some down. Yeah, it wasn't like a terrible points per dollar play. So something I'm keeping in the back of my mind. But yeah, Red Sox have just as much to play for today as any of the top teams. They still have a chance, like you said, to be in the home team in the wild card, but essentially could just clinch a playoff berth if they handle up here. And there's really no excuse for the Red Sox to not beat the Nationals here. So I'm in on that. As far as the pitching options for the Red Sox, if it is indeed Tanner Houck, he has been really solid for them, but he has been reduced more to a bullpen role. So even though we have seen him as a starter as recent as last August, I don't think you would expect deep pitches from him today, because his last couple of appearances have been like 40 or less pitches. So I don't think 7,400 is going to be an efficient price point on that. And it may look more like a bullpen game. You might even see like a Garrett Richards or something like that piggyback off of him. But I don't know for sure. Like, I don't think we've confirmed what Alex Cora has in mind. But being that it is an NL game, there's a chance Houck just gets through to his at bat, and then they double switch guys in and out and go all in for the dub.
All right. You know what? I can confirm that there are 7 live shows after us, along with 2 videos on demand. Coming up directly after this show is going to be College Football Live Before Lock. That is going to be with Matt Gajeski and Ben Raza, leading you up to the 12 o'clock kickoff. Then we're going to have the MMA Live Before Lock. Lock time is at 4 o'clock today for UFC. That's going to go from 12 to 1 o'clock. At 1:30, we join Laffy, Steve the Colts Buzzard, and Ian Hartitz is a special guest on NFL On the Contrary, as the boss man Alex Baker continues his honeymoon after getting married last weekend. We've got at 3 o'clock the NFL Strategy Show, tournament style. You're going to get to see Greg Ehrenberg breaking down that slate. 4 o'clock, we're going to get the Prize Pick Show. That's going to be myself and Aton, and then NASCAR strategy show. That is going to be at 5 o'clock. Of course, there's a NASCAR race tomorrow at 2 p.m. They'll be breaking that down, as well as this afternoon's minor league NASCAR races. And then we also, of course, have MLB starting at 3:05 tomorrow, as Gundacker mentioned, with all of the teams going at once. And then we'll wrap it up tonight with 6 o'clock to 7, the MLB Live Before Lock. Tomorrow, we're starting it all over at 8 a.m., the NFL betting show over at the Awesemo Odds channel, before going with 4 straight hours, taking you up to lock on this channel for NFL kickoff. All right. Our next game, let's see, where did I leave us off? Philadelphia at Miami. Yikes. I don't know. I don't like the pitching here. We have Kraus, who should probably go around 70 pitches for Philadelphia. We have Luzardo, who, I don't know, forgot how to find the strike zone since becoming a Marlin. What do you want to do here? And why is it choose the bats?
Yeah, man, I don't know. The bats in this game, or at least on the Marlin side, never really appealed to me. I gotta be honest, like in my spreadsheet where it pulls information with like qualifying at bats, like half the Marlins don't even populate. That's how like little sample I have on most of these guys. So Hans Kraus is pitching for the Phillies today. In the minors, it was a decent strikeout pitcher. It looks like we have him projected at 30% ownership on this early slate. He's got about 15% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. So maybe he's double owned in terms of our probability. But people just love pitching against the Marlins. And at 5K, you treat him like a bat, and maybe you get a home run point total out of him. I get it. Marlins Park can be pitcher friendly. So maybe I could subscribe to that. Maybe 30% is a little aggressive. But I could understand Kraus to an extent here. He is somebody that does have some strikeouts in his minor league pedigree here. 85 innings pitched in the minors this season, 98 strikeouts with a 106 whip. So those are solid numbers to throw at what is basically a AAA Marlins team. So I don't mind a little sprinkle of that. And then with Luzardo, he has really struggled against righties. This will be a spot where I'm sure Andrew McCutchen looks really well in the bomb detector. And then JT Realmuto, if those guys, make the lineup, Phillies with nothing to play for. So guys that maybe they want to come back next year. It's not somebody you force into a lineup on a road trip here. One thing EMAC that I'm sure is different this year that we haven't really been accustomed to is any other season, this would be who's that. But since we don't have like 40-man rosters, the rosters didn't quite expand like that. We're still seeing starters play through the last week of the season. Harper yesterday came up limp on a double, but then he responded with a homer. So we'll see if they'd be cautious with him after yesterday, or if they just let him go out there and try to lock in an MVP. I'll bet on talent here. I'll put some Harper in the mix, but if Realmuto, Harper, McCutchen, and Gene Segura are all in the lineup, I don't mind that little lane against Luzardo.
All right, we are going on to the final game here of the early slate. It is going to be Cincinnati at Pittsburgh. We've got Tyler Mahle taking the mound. He is averaging about 100 pitches per outing. I don't expect anything less than 90. I would be shocked probably if he doesn't just close this out as a regular start. On the other side, you've got Max Krasnick. The interesting thing about Krasnick is while he is incredibly hittable, allows a lot of contact, he has escaped without allowing that much power this season. That's probably going to change today. We have Joey Votto, who has 35 home runs. That's only 2 shy of his career best. Not too shabby for a 38-year-old who set that career best back in 2010. You have Nick Castellanos, who has been rocking it with the 33 home runs, despite missing 24 games to injuries. That is a record, personal best for him. And then Eugenio Suarez, while he's batting 195, literally below his weight this season, below his career mark by 50 points, he does have 30 home runs. You've got rookie Jonathan India looking to take home the hardware for Rookie of the Year. You got Max Schrock. You probably don't have Kyle Farmer. Tweaked his oblique. I suspect he will be shut down for the rest of the season. I want a lot of Reds going against Krasnick. I don't think we'll be alone. What is your assessment of this? And is Mahle the better pitcher than Manoah on this slate?
I think this is where we kind of have to remove ourselves from the numbers a little bit and let some of the human element come through. Mahle on the road in a game that is really meaningless. You do wonder, what the skipper lets him go out there to do. But it is the Pittsburgh Pirates, right? You're going to get Pittsburgh, PNC Park. It's a super, super soft matchup, and Mahle does have some decent strikeout stuff. And the fun thing about this game is the Pirates project to be pretty lefty heavy, and Mahle's actually more positive split is striking out lefties. He's striking out lefties almost 32% this season versus just 24% against righties. So if they do roll out a lefty heavy lineup, it actually does complement his split a lot better. So that might be something that we use in our back pocket to take advantage of the spot. If you told me the same amount of innings and pitches were available to both Manoah and Molly, I think Molly is the sharper play at half the ownership of Alek Manoah. He has just a 34%. I won't say just, but he has a 34% chance of being a top 2 pitcher versus Manoah's 43. With Manoah representing half the field and Molly just a quarter. So I definitely think the leverage play there is Tyler Molly, but I would be a little bit concerned about how deep he would go. Kranick, you mentioned, he hasn't allowed a homer in PNC Park yet. His hard contact allowed is well below league average, but the contact that he is allowing a lot of contact. So a team like the Reds maybe can get through him, dip into that bullpen, and then all bets are off. And you mentioned all the clear guys, and I got to imagine the Reds are not a team people are ready to drop 5 to 6K on per person when you got the Red Sox, you got the Blue Jays on the slate, and our ownership is somewhat reflecting that, right? We got the Cincinnati Reds right now sitting on a second best chance of being a top stack with a third ownership behind the aforementioned Blue Jays and Red Sox. And I'm in agreement with that. Like, I think that's fine. It would be a top 3 stack for me. But the prices are a little hard to click with a lot of confidence.
All right. That brings us along to sort of the halfway point. Let's talk about some of the Awesemo tools. I see someone in chat was asking, does anybody play CSGO? Counter-Strike Global Offensive, I believe is what that is called. While I don't play the video game, I do play the DFS version. I also play League of Legends. And most of the other, those are the 2 main esports, and I play a lot of soccer. How do I do all that when I don't watch those sports? Because I utilize the Awesemo tools. We have projections for all of that, which I don't basically no other site does. And it's something you can check out. You play in the low dollar stuff. Most of the people competing in those low stakes don't have access to these type of projections or tools. And it's a very profitable ROI sport. It's not like I'm racking in the bucks, but you could easily get enough down in both those sports to pay off a full subscription to your Awesemo monthly premium. If you guys want to jump in and get the weekly Awesemo Pass all access, you can get it for $29.95. But if you use the promo code MLB Strategy Show, all one word, that's all caps MLB Strategy Show, we will take 25% off of that for new users. It's definitely worthwhile, and it's a lot of fun. Again, I don't watch those sports. It's a math-based exercise. Gundacker and I talk a lot about how baseball is a math-based exercise, but I actually like to watch baseball. So, you can apply the tools to strategies to a variety of different sports here. That's what we build out for you. And those are the hidden gems that essentially can pay off your full-term Awesemo subscription. You just have to be disciplined enough to enter it each day and let us do the heavy lifting. All right, we are on to the main slate here. We've got some weather. We've got some players that probably don't need to play the full game. We've got a few people that are going to be full steam ahead. This one's kind of an interesting one. Let's start off here with Cleveland at Texas. So we've got McKenzie going against Lyles. The roof is almost assuredly going to be closed tonight at Globe Life Field. It was closed last night. They generally don't open it even at this point of the year. Wouldn't shock me if they did, because it's one of the 2 last days. But you can follow along with News God on Twitter to find out if that is officially going to be open or closed. The default position, 90% chance it's going to be closed tonight. That does turn the park into a little bit of a pitcher's park. However, Jordan Lyles leads the league with 38 home runs. I'm a little terrified of him going against Cleveland, particularly Jose Ramirez. Franmil Reyes would be the 2 I would look to. You've got Rosario, who's been hitting out of his mind over the last 30 days. You've got Zimmer. You've got Bradley, a couple discounted power options. I don't think we need a full stack here, but I think especially on Yahoo, if you look over there at Franmil and at Ramirez, you can then fill out whatever you want in the rest of your lineup and be unique. What do you think about this matchup?
Yeah, so I made like a comparison to, so the last week of this baseball season. This is kind of like a T-Wolves Kings game, right? Where we don't really care about either team and we don't have a lot of clickable names. But yesterday, the same game put up 15 runs. So, while people are wide-eyed and looking at, targeting the teams that have an incentive to win, there's still secret sleeping incentives of guys that want jobs next year, want contracts next year, want to start in the big leagues. And this is two teams that, are going to need to make some decisions. And it's two teams that have some pitching that can be exploited. I think McKenzie's easily the better pitcher than Jordan Lyles. So would we be starting with the Indian side when we start to try and formulate, a plan of attack and grabbing names from this game? You mentioned the key ones, Jose Ramirez, Framil Reyes. They have the two highest ratings in the bomb detector for me against Jordan Lyles, but with his power propensities, I think you can grab some Bradley Zimmers and guys like that and also get away with it. Tristan McKenzie is somebody that are going to be on the fence between pitching. I'm more so likely to pitch against him or pitch him than stack against him, just because I know his strikeout upside is there, and he's going against a weaker perceived Rangers team. The thing with McKenzie is his last couple of outings, we haven't seen him go over 80 pitches but once in his last 5 games. So you do wonder if 5 innings is the limit here, but if you do get 5+ innings out of him, there's a chance 25+ DKP is a range of outcome, and I'd gladly take that against a Rangers team that has a lane of 25 to 30% K rates right there in the thick of it. So I don't mind looking at him. If I wanted to pick on McKenzie and go full-fledged game stack here, McKenzie does have a power problem, particularly to righties. Almost a 2 home run per 9 this season against righties with a 4.5 xFIP. So Dallas Garcia, Nate Lowe, Nate Lowe's a lefty, Nick Solak, DJ Peters, and Jose Trevino got into one last night. There's some sneaky power, but it's just one of those. I'd probably just let it roll for 2 bad teams, and 2 bad teams can produce runs. But give me more Indians than Rangers, and give me a little bit of McKenzie.
All right. Our next game here, this one is we're making record time. That's not always the case with us, Gundacker. And now that I've said that, I've jinxed it. We'll derail. We'll slow down. Producer Tyler won't have to come on and do funny voices for the last 10 minutes of the show to get us all the way home. But we've got Oakland at Houston here. So you've got Odorizzi, and Odorizzi made a couple articles for season-long stuff talking about him as a bottom-of-the-barrel streamer, and a lot of those say 50% or less owned and stuff like that, right? It's totally appropriate. But if you go back and look at his game log, I will be shocked to see more than 4 innings from him. I didn't have time to go in and look and see if he had an illness or an injury or something, but he's only pitched twice this month, or pardon me, not this month, twice last month, and really seemed to be slowing down. The Astros are just they don't have to win this one. They need him to get 3 or 4 innings for him. So I don't even know that he's going to make my player pool. On the other side, you have Paul Blackburn, who, if the Astros decide to run down a semi-watered down lineup, he becomes a little intriguing because we've got weather threatening a bunch of our other games here. So while I don't like either of these pitchers, we have to talk about them just a little bit in the contingency that we're probably going to lose that St. Louis game and have a chance of losing one other game in the Midwest, more like a 1-3. How are you feeling about the pitching in this game, both sides? Because we're running out of choices here pretty quick, despite having 7 games on this slate.
Yeah, I don't really think there's not a lot of redeeming qualities in Blackburn's game from a fantasy perspective. Like his best fantasy days are probably when he eats 5-6 innings. If he's still a strikeout here and there, go for it. But he's really just a ground ball contact guy. Go get some outs, and more than likely you're not going to get very deep into double-digit fantasy points if he's not giving up runs. And if he does give up a couple runs, he can't really compensate for it with strikeouts. So he's never really somebody I put in my player pool as a guy trying to get first place in a tournament. Odorizzi has been kind of public enemy number 1 within the pitching department of the Astros. The key with Odorizzi right now is they don't trust him to see a lineup 3rd time through the order, and he was actually kind of public about that he did not like the way that they treat him in that regard. And everyone, the right answer is, if you don't like it, then pitch better. And he hasn't pitched better. Maybe Dusty Baker has the division locked up and they say, all right, Jake, let's see what you got 3rd time through. Unfortunately for him, this is a good athletics team. So neither pitcher strike me for a warm and fuzzy upside play. And I wouldn't be stunned if Odorizzi didn't get to the 5th inning, either way, but I could see Baker kind of challenging him to get to that third time through. But yeah, tough matchup for both pitchers, and very little implied strikeouts in both of the projected lineups. If we get some funky lineups because of where they're at, I think Altuve wasn't in the lineup yesterday. If we see them start, resting starters, staggering the last 2 days, maybe you'd be a little bit more risk diverse into getting to one of these pitchers. But I still think within the pitching pedigree, there's not a ton of strikeout potential. So I'm not really that excited. But like you said, it might get ugly if the weather has its way.
All right. Let's see here. I see asking about some of the afternoon plays only. One, you can look at my article. It's now on the front page. And it's free at awesemo.com. It is the Spotlight Pitchers and Top Stacks. I do post a pitcher for the early slate as well as a stack for that afternoon slate as well. Today I covered a few other extra contingencies because there's really nothing overly clear cut, and there are a lot of moving parts, sort of if then, some of those depending on our earlier games here. That will affect tonight's games along with the weather. So a lot of moving parts on today's action. That, of course, will be tightened up by the time we get to the MLB Live Before Lock. That'll be at 6 o'clock this evening. Of course, as I mentioned, we have 7 more hours of live Awesemo shows on this very channel. Coming up in 30 minutes, or 35 minutes, we're going to have the college football live before lock show. That'll be Matt Gajewski and Ben Rosso breaking down everything for the 12 o'clock and 3 o'clock games on today's slate. This show is actually brought to you today by Jock Market. So the neat thing about Jock Market is they've turned fantasy sports into a stock exchange. You don't have to wait till the end of the game to make money. Jock Market allows you to sell shares of player in real time for real money with guaranteed payouts at the end of the night for all shares, depending on how the players perform within the games. They've got markets for MLB, soon to be NHL and NBA, PGA. They have NFL. You can make real money every hour, every minute, every second of any match or game. Use the pregame IPO to pick up shares of your favorite players, then buy, sell, or hold during the game based upon your analysis. You can download the app and get started using the Awesemo promo code, wait for it, Awesemo, and they will match you up to $50 on your first deposit. This is an exclusive Awesomer. This is an exclusive offer for Awesemo fans only. Check it out. You can download them in the Google App Store, in iTunes, and of course over there at jockmarket.com. All right. The next game. Hit that like button while we're thinking about it. And we get the diehards in here. Thank you guys for being here on our last Saturday of the MLB slate. It's been a lot of fun here. We have enjoyed things. We also got to 60,000 YouTube subscribers on this channel. That is the most in DFS history of any DFS content providers. So pretty cool there. Follow us on Twitter at Awesemo_COM. Looking at the weather, I was waiting for weather.com to load here. I've got it pulled up over the Midwest. So St. Louis looks a little shaky. As best I can tell, Gun, that game is they can't really do anything to impact playoff seeding at any point. They're a wild card. Nothing else should matter. It's not like they're going to force this one in. They probably still would be obligated to make it up as a doubleheader tomorrow if the weather is pending. But that would also allow the Cardinals to bring up another pitcher. By the way, who are they lining up? Probably Wainwright to start the playoff game. So this is just like it's window dressing at this point, right? It's really not going to impact anything. So I could see him punting on this one today. We've got the Royals game. That one looks like there might be a little rain. It could reach the stadium, but it's kind of on the edge. So we've got Griffin Jackson, Chris Bubich. I do not see a postponement in this game. We may lose the pitchers. We don't want these pitchers. And then the other game we have is in Chicago. This one looks like it might survive as well from any of the issues. It looks like, if anything, it might be a little more misty. Again, that's at this time. We still have 7 hours or probably 9 hours before first pitch. But in this one, you've got Matt Manning going against the juggernaut. Even if they rest 4 of their regulars, the White Sox are still going to have a 5 implied run total. And the White Sox are going with Lucas Giolito. There is no reason to push him at all. Aside from I think it was Lance Lynn who had the random out of nowhere 100 pitch outing. They've been basically starting their pitchers once a week for the last 5 weeks and just saying, just let's get to the playoffs. Let's get to the playoffs. Right. So we're not going to really want those guys. I wanted to cover this Midwest section because there's not too many pitchers. The cavalry is really not coming because if we get to the late game, we have Corbin Burns, who's going to be necessary for the Brewers playoffs. He's going against the Dodgers. And while he's battling Max Scherzer for the Cy Young, which is going to be more important, saving him from imploding against the Dodgers and having him ready for the playoffs, or trying to beat Scherzer today by himself against the Dodgers to get the Cy Young? I think it's going to be the former. And then you have Julio Urias going against Milwaukee. If the Giants win, the Dodgers they're going to be the wild card. Urias is going to pitch no matter what. He could get to 20 wins today if he gets the win, but I don't think we're going to see more than 5 or 6 innings from him. If the Giants lose, okay, then maybe we see 6 or 7 innings from him, but he doesn't usually go over 100 pitches. So we have a lot of moving parts here. So I wanted to set the stage for this one because then we got the Angels and the Mariners that are just like, man, pitchers. We're going to be obligated to talk about them, but there's nothing really exciting coming up. So setting you up with all of those moving parts here, Gundacker, let's see. I don't want to go out of order for producer Tyler. Detroit at Chicago. What are your thoughts on Giolito? Is he, say the weather's good, we know he's starting. Is it worth paying for him to get 4 innings against Detroit?
I think La Russa kind of tipped his hand last night. He let Lance Lynn go 5, and Lance Lynn only threw 81 pitches. So I got to imagine 5 is the ceiling.
Cap.
Yeah, I don't see him going 6 unless he's, got a bunch of zeros in the hit column. Even then, I wouldn't be surprised if he yanked them. So I'd imagine 5 innings. So if you're 15 outs, maybe that would pluck him from me really looking for him as I play on FanDuel, losing a potential quality start. But at 10.3K, could he still get 20 plus? Could 20 plus on a rain affected slate where most pitchers probably ain't going 5 innings anyway? Is 10K, 18 DKP worth it? 20 DKP worth it, even more so today than usual. Yeah, so I do probably get to him. It is a Tigers lineup that still projects to be pretty weak. Everyone in this projected lineup strikes out, 1-5, 1-4 or greater. So yeah, I'd probably get to some Giolito, but I definitely would not expect more than 5 innings. If he did get past the 15 outs, it would just be a bonus. Matt Manning's not somebody I'm interested in at all. Very low strikeout numbers for him. High average allowed. I guess to his credit, the power hasn't quite been as bad, but it has acted up on the road. A 1.42 home run per 9 so far when he's on the road with a 41% hard contact rate. So his hard contact is way higher than the average results for him. So we do expect some regression from him. And the White Sox, they put up some runs last night. I don't mind going back to them. Only Lewis Robert and Tim Anderson and Yasmani Grandal are over 5K. You can still penny pinch with some of the bottom of the order guys, Gavin Sheets, even Yoel Moncada, guys like that. So I would be on some White Sox. White Sox are one of those teams that are locked in, coasted. Actually, I was looking at White Sox, and so technically, I guess there is a world where the White Sox could host the Astros if the Astros lost these.
We get into second round matchups, which is a little tricky for a decision point today. So I did look at all of those, and I agree. It's sort of like, is that going to impact what they do today, though? Because they still have to get there in the postseason.
No, that would be the first round, right? We got the Rays. The Rays would host the wild card, and then it would be the Astros and the White Sox. And who gets home field for that DS? So there is still a world where White Sox.
I count the wild card as the first round because it's like it's just
White Sox don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess there's still a world where they need to win if the Astros lost the next 2. But that's probably not something that La Russa is thinking about.
All right, everybody at home, do the air quotes with us. Need to. All right. Again, trying to map all this out is tricky, especially when there was moving parts just like this the night before. And if you go read, so I can still calculate magic numbers. Hardly anybody does that anymore. But even now in the AL West, trying to figure out the magic number for the wild card, that's toned itself down a little bit because they're all within like 1.5 games of each other. But when you start looking across the divisions, it gets to be a bit of a pain in the ass because some of them are still close enough that they could tie. And then you're like, well, what are the tiebreakers again? Because it's not always best record or head-to-head record in baseball, which is what you get with the 1 game playoffs and stuff like that, right? They're like, okay, well, maybe you get this, but if you have the same record, we have to determine who has the most wins to get your divisional title. And I remember that from 1995, the Mariners refused to lose going against the Angels. They won almost every game from August on, and the Angels lost almost every game from August on. We got game 163. It was Randy Johnson going against Mark Langston. Boy, there are 2 names that maybe the people in chat have heard of one, and that would be Randy Johnson. Oh, yeah. But those are good times. Those make for some great memories there. But these are all the little tricky moving parts that 160 games can actually come down to a tie. Pretty odd. All right. Excuse me. Anything else from the Detroit and the Chi Sox game?
No. Giolito does give up some power to righties, and if you thought that the lesser, I still think La Russa will use his main guys out of the pen. So I don't really have a vested interest in getting to the Tigers here. And then with the rain, you mentioned rain in some of these games. They might just try and get 5 innings how they can get them and then just call it a game, even in some of the heavier rain spots. So you might even see them play through some rain just to not have to deal with the doubleheader headache and makeups. And sometimes they'll just not play that game. So that might be
very rare, but even with the St. Louis one, that there's like no impact. Like if they just said, we're not playing the next 2, there's literally no impact. Occasionally you'll get one where you can affect the seeding for somebody else, even though you can't impact yourself. We don't have that issue because of where everything's separated.
We would have it here with the Astros.
Here we definitely do. But for like that St. Louis one, it's like,
that's
if they postpone it today, would they really do a doubleheader? And to your point, it's not like these teams are going to care. They're going to be like, you know what? Let's try to get in 5. We're going to start scrub-a-dub, and you start your guy, and let's just get out of here. And the other teams are like, F it, we want to be done with the season. Sure, that sounds good to us. Let's do it, right? And those are the little dugout meetings that happen before the game. But anyway, neither here nor there. Where are we on the list? Minnesota and Kansas City. Shall we say batting practice here? As long as the weather holds, we've got Griffin Jacks going against Chris Bubich. There will be a smattering of these pitchers, 10%ers in my lineups, because we're running out of options.
Oh, yeah.
And this would be the case of, I hope they don't go negative and somebody else does. And all of a sudden the bats they afford me do really well. And randomly I'm in the top 20% of something or breaking away. Otherwise, I think we're looking at the hitters here. Do you want to decipher which pitcher is slightly stronger than the other?
I couldn't tell you, man. I think
I've got a quarter right here. Shall I flip?
That would be it. Yeah. Go flip a coin. Matchup wise, both offenses actually trend well. They're both knocking on the door of almost 5 implied runs. If we look at our top stacks tool for the main slate, Minnesota has the 4th highest chance of being a top stack. KC a little bit lower, but that tells you straight. I guess if you let that tell the story, EMAC, Minnesota has the better chance according to our numbers, but they also have a top 3 ownership cumulative to their stack, and that's been the case last couple of days. And for what it's worth, Byron Buxton, Polanco, Mitch Garver, Donaldson, they've been consistent. So no pushback here. I love those guys more so against lefties anyway. And Bubich has shown some problems with getting both sides of the plate out, but especially righties. A 262 average allowed this season and a 159 home run per 9. So you could definitely sell me on a twin stack, assuming that the normal suspects are in the lineup. And because he has a lower strikeout number, you might be able to neutralize the strikeout failure rates for guys like Miguel Sano. And if Sano ain't striking out, he's got one of the highest barrel rates in all of baseball. So it lines up pretty well for him. And price-wise, the Twins are fine. I think really Price is not going to get in the way of any stack today based on our roadblocks at pitching. So, Twins profile pretty well. And then the Royals, like I said, similar run total here. I think, don't quote me, Mac, but I think Salvi's like one homer away from like the club record or something for I don't know, RBI something.
He's looking like he's going to lead the league in both categories.
Yeah,
that's pretty damn impressive.
It really is wild how like Ohtani is putting some of these historic seasons in the shadows. Like Salvi is having just an incredible year.
Yeah. Or Vladdy Jr. just battling for the triple crown, and then Vladdy hit the brakes.
And
Al flew right by. There you go. There's the Top Gun quote just for the producer, Jordan.
There's Tyler. I got
damn it. Producer Tyler. Call sign Jordan. There we go.
Oh man. Yeah. So if you get to both pitchers, sure. We've seen Jackson and Bubic steal a couple of positive games, but it would just be a range of outcomes, mass entry. I don't think I would touch him in 20 or less, right? And definitely not single entry. So you can give me some twin stacks. And then if I wanted to get to the Royals, Griffin Jax has allowed a lot of power to both sides of the plate. So I'd be looking at Salvador Perez. Salvador Perez has a 4.52 rating on bomb detector, which I gotta assume is the highest on the slate. So take that for what it's worth. That's right. Guy who leads league in homer, projected to look well in home run model. Yeah, he's number one on my bomb detector, well above Hunter Renfroe, who is number 2. So I'll be looking at Salvi to try and catch one and keep his historic season going. But yeah, I'm more in the bats than the pitchers here.
All right. Do you know how old Sal Perez is?
I'm gonna 32.
31. So right
okay.
in the range there. I just bring this up because even when I first started DFS, which would be 10 years ago, he was like the noted lefty masher. And it's just like, wow, to see him actually expand his hitting capabilities all the way to this somewhat outlier season, but well-deserved nonetheless. Home runs can be a little bit fluky, and we've seen some changes in the pitching and the ball and things like that, but everybody's playing under the same rules right now. So contextually, he's definitely leading the league. So kind of interesting on that one. All righty, let's take a gander over here. Looks like Carlos Carrasco and I think Jesse Chavez is going to be the named pitcher.
These are
here. They did update that on most of the sites. So that was one of the ones that wasn't there when I did my run sheet this morning. So here, my notes say this looks like a potential pitcher or hitter's paradise.
So, yeah, okay. I see Carrasco now. A minute ago, I saw Trevor Williams, and I was like, "What?" So I guess
it is
all
these are hitter's paradise.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Carrasco at least would have some strikeout potential in his pedigree, but the Braves are the Braves, and they're not a team that you feel comfortable pitching against unless they're just champagned out and put out a Sunday special lineup here. I don't really think that either Mets pitcher would be somebody that I'd be aggressive with, but at least Carrasco, if you thought could get 5 innings, has some strikeout propensity. He's just really, really struggled with homers allowed to righties. Almost a 3 home run per 9 so far this season against righties. So Soler, Austin Riley, Adam Duvall would look well. Yesterday we saw Jock Peterson lead off, so that kind of maybe tipping their hand. They might be a little bit more likely to get the bench guys some at bats. That way they're not as rusty in the playoffs. So it'd be card subject to change, but I don't think I would be too enamored with either starting pitcher. And then Jesse Chavez, I think at best would be an opener anyway. And then, you dip it into the bullpen. So that probably eliminates him from contention. He hasn't gone more than 1.1 innings in his last 10 appearances, Jesse Chavez. So I got to imagine that's a full-fledged bullpen game. So you can't really get there for pitching. If you wanted to get to the Mets bats, they are pretty cheap. Only Lindor over 5K. Everyone else, 4K and less. Conforto is 3,500. Probably some value to be had there. Brandon Nimmo, if you potentially lead off guy, some value to be had there. And Jeff McNeil, 3,500. I feel like these guys are better than their price point, but I feel like that's a statement we've been saying all year for the Mets. So it is what it is. The run totals are meh. Pitching's meh. It's just you land on it, you let it hit in your mass entry, and you don't really sweat it too much this late in the season.
All right. I see the calls coming for us to get out of here for college football live before lock. Not to fear. We got 20 more minutes here, and then we're stepping aside. That's going to be the first of 7 more hours on this Awesemo channel on YouTube. We have 2 other channels out there. We have the Awesemo Odds channel as well as the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel. Both those shows are going to have NFL content tomorrow as well. We start everything off at 8 in the morning with a betting show over there featuring Ben Raza on the Awesemo Odds channel. And then while we're in the 4-hour block on this channel, starting at 9 o'clock through kickoff, we also do a Who Do I Start show for season long over there on the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel. So, wow, not only do we have 3 channels, we are doing simultaneous broadcasts. Who would have thought that would ever happen? So check that out. Subscribe to those channels. Hit the notification bell so you know when we're going off. A lot of people are like, when are you going to talk NFL betting when they're talking about the main show? They already have. It's in the can. There's a whole hour. So if that's what really excites you, you don't want to listen to Adam and Josh starting your day off. Start off with the NFL betting show and then catch back up with the deeper dive on this channel tomorrow. All right, let's get back to our sheet here. And by our sheet, I mean the one I just scrolled up on, so I got to remember what game we're on. Oh, it's the Chicago Cubs and the St. Louis Cardinals. You've got Samson going against Lester in a Remember Me game. No, John Lester, we want to forget you. Sadly, the weather is probably going to take this one off the board. Otherwise, we would be looking at the hitters. Let's pretend it is going to go. Let's pretend that we get in at least 7 innings tonight. And who cares if the weather knocks out the pitchers? The hitters should stick around. What are we going to see from the Cubs? What are we going to see from the Cardinals? Is this an empty the bench game for the Cardinals?
Samsonite. I was way off. Yeah,
we talking luggage?
You got the Dumb and Dumber quotes in my head from this. Yeah, Samson's not really that good. No strikeout stuff, a lot of power allowed. So if this game did get in, you'd be looking at the Cardinals power bats. There would be no way on the face of this planet I could project Tyler O'Neill not to homer if he gets some at bats against Sampson. Just wow, the contact rates are nuts. And O'Neill had a game last night, 40 DraftKings points before I went to bed. A pair of bombs, some stolen bases late, which I thought was wild for the Cardinals to be stealing bases. Kind of disrespectful based on where they're at and how meaningless it is, and you're risking injury. But yeah, sure. So if it did play, I'd be on the Cardinals bats here, but yeah, look for guys to get staggered. Maybe don't play all 9 innings, what have you. John Lester, the bane of my existence. I stack against him every 5 days, and I don't think it's worked once, but he has a 191 homer per 9 on the season. So a guy like maybe Frank Schwindel, Wilson Contreras would look good. I think Patrick Wisdom is hurt, so that's a guy I would like to play, but he would not be eligible with a wrist injury, and then he was deactivated. So I'm not really running to the Cubs, but like you said, I don't want to get my hopes up on this game even playing. Not a lot of incentive for it to play.
All right, well, it's the DFS strategy. So you know what they say, I gotta learn, but nobody's here to teach me. If they can't understand it, how can they reach me? I guess they can't. I guess they won't. I guess they frontin'. There we go. That's for those of you in chat that all have Gangster's Paradise stuck in your head. Now we all do, not just those that were reading chat. Hat tip to Coolio, Michelle Pfeiffer. That was a good one. Yeah. A good one. Back to life, back to reality. Let's just start off seeing if we can catch the YouTube algorithm scrubbers to really dig us on this one. I can sense a call coming from Tom to me rather quickly, so I will stop having fun with these. But we've got Colorado at Arizona. The roof will be open tonight. Game time temperatures in the low 90s. You've got Anthony Senzatella going against Zach Gallen. You've got 2 of the worst teams in the league against righties, but we do have, a partial hitter's paradise, at least here with the roof open. That'll suppress the effects of the humidor. Where are we landing on this one, Gun?
So yeah, roof open, kind of scary, but Gallen has a lot of strikeout potential. We got him as a 21% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, but 34% ownership. So I guess I'll be thinking about how much exposure I would have to Gallen today. All day, really hour after hour and minute after minute. So I think right now he would definitely be one of my top 3 pitchers. I like to see a more righty heavy Rockies lineup to tap into his near 30% K rate to righties, but I'll take a 24% K rate to lefties if you give it to me. But like you said, they've been popping the roof open out there in Arizona. It's still 90 degrees and it'll be the most hitter friendly environment. Pushing back against that darned humidor. So what I would really like with that roof open here is some D-backs to get into Senzatella. The thing with Senzatella is even when he's allowing hits, it's not for homers. He has a 50 to 60% ground ball rate to both sides of the plate, just a 0.6 homer per 9 to lefties this year. So maybe it plays spoiler and maybe this game produces runs, but it's not necessarily by way of the long ball. Zach Gallen does have a 2+ homer per 9 to righties. Trevor Story, if he didn't play tomorrow, this would probably be his last day as a Rocky. So maybe a little fun narrative to put him in your back pocket. CJ Cron, some power righties that might tap into those splits. But for the most part, I think I'm in agreement with having more Gallen than Rocky's exposure. I don't think I would play any Senzatella here. And I'd have a little bit of some Marte in like 20 or less, but I would have access to the D-backs full stack in Mass Century.
All right. Well, let's slippity slide onto our next game here. A little bit of a fantastic voyage.
Yes.
We've got Milwaukee at the Dodgers. You have front runner in the NL Cy Young, Corbin Burnes, going against Julio Urias, who is in line to get his 20th win tonight. This one is going to be a fun one. Unless the Giants win this afternoon. At that point, the Dodgers become relegated to having the wild card game in their pocket with the second most wins in the league. On the other side, Milwaukee is sort of cannot improve their playoff positioning. They can improve their playoff odds if Corbin Burnes makes it through this appearance unscathed. Let's assume the Giants lose. Let's analyze it like that.
So we'll analyze it like that, but also EMAC for our bettors out there with the Giants playing early.
Yeah, we're gonna know.
Yeah, but you might so logistically, if the Giants won and locked up the division, you might see Dave Roberts call off the Dogs, and then you might have some value in the Brewers being plus 121 underdogs here with Corbin Burnes on the bump. So
a little wager perhaps for those that are into those sorts of things.
Maybe halfway through the Giants game, if you see them about to win, you go place that bet and you get a little bit more value on it. Just based on, the Dodgers can still beat Corbin Burnes, but if they didn't need to put out their A lineup here a couple days away from the postseason, you might not see Urias even start this game, and then you might not see your A+ hitters in the lineup. So just something to keep in mind if you're into sports betting, that there is an opportunity for value halfway through the Giants game, if not more. But matchup wise, if the Dodgers did have something to play for when this game started, Corbin Burnes is one of the toughest asks you could have going against. After Max's last two games, Burnes probably the guy that gets to the Cy Young, unless the Dodgers shell him and make the debate a little stronger. But I think Burnes has been super rock solid, over 30% carry rate, over 34% carry rate to both sides of the plate this season. And at 10.8K, you wonder how long they truly let him go. Whether or not it would just be 5 innings, 6 innings. His last couple of outings, he's gone 6, 7, 8. But this is one of those spots where you are kind of locked in, condensed. You know where you're going to end up being in the postseason. So I feel like 6 would be the absolute ceiling. Just if he's pitching again a gem, and they think a quality start might be an extra plus on his resume for that Cy Young. But for the most part, I wouldn't expect more than 6. And at 10.8K. Maybe value is a little bit more subjective because of how thin pitching is today. If he got you 25, it might be enough to be live halfway through the night. So I don't mind getting to him. We have him at just 17% ownership with a 23% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. To put that in perspective, right now Carlos Carrasco is projected to be higher owned than Corbin Burnes. So there's definitely a world where Burnes is under owned for what his potential upside is. We also have Zach Gallen higher owned and Giolito. And we know Giolito is not likely to go more than 5 innings. So if Giolito is going to be 40% owned, why would people not take the same chance on Corbin Burnes, who is in the same spot? There's no reason for him to go more than 5 other than, maybe $2,000 price difference in a tougher matchup. So I'm in on Corbin Burnes as a contrarian play, it looks like, and he has more upside than anybody else on the slate. Urias, the same thing, man. If this is a must-win spot for the Dodgers, Urias has been pretty good for them. The Brewers bats menacing to an extent, but Urias does have a chance at 20 plus DKP. His last 3 games at Coors Light with the roof open, got you into the teens, but at home this season it's been all right, averaging just under 20 DKP per game. And I'd take any pitcher on this slate that can give me a shot at 20, with the other half of the slate either being affected by rain or just not being good or limited. So I'd have access to both pitchers. And then offensively, the Brewers have just a 3.5 run total, Dodgers 4. That'll probably keep the ceiling low on their projected ownership. For whatever reason, the Dodgers keep coming in low owned day after day, and they keep coming through for me. Trey Turner was a huge piece of my top lineups last night. Today we have the Dodgers have a 1% ownership share, which is what we've seen the last 2 days, with a 5% chance of being a top stack. So still egregiously under owned. You probably don't get Dodgers and also get those 2 upper echelon pitchers, but I would be willing to wager that you can offset it, and you would also probably see maybe a little bit of value in the Dodgers lineup with a guy like Gavin Lux or maybe a Chris Taylor, somebody like that getting thrown in there. But yeah, Dodgers going to cost you. But that's what I got here. I'm playing both sides of the fence, but everything is heavily contingent on what happens in that Giants game this afternoon.
You know what's not contingent? Me taking away your dad joke card. You are now on probation. You could have said, instead of day after day, you could have said minute after minute, hour after hour. The Dodgers continue to go unowned. But no, you went away from the Coolio lyric.
I already made that joke. Here. Hello?
Yeah, but you just reinforcement.
I can't do the same joke twice. That's a comedian rule, bro.
Well, I would bring in something like rolling with the homies, but nobody's going to know Clueless references. Yeah, they're going to be clueless.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a silver stone for that one. I don't know what we're doing.
All right. You remember the song "Rolling with the Homies" and Clueless?
Yeah,
that was Coolio. That was like his first time on the scenes. I'm
gonna be honest. I don't memorize the Coolio discography.
I just happen to remember because that was back when I used to listen to radio. That was before Sirius XM, so we were just listening to terrestrial radio. All right, one more game, and then we're going to talk about the Awesemo Hall of Fame. We got the lyrical rhymes all over the place here. Gundecker, we have the Angels at Seattle. Seattle still has about a 20% chance of making the playoffs. They do need to win out, and they need help. We've got Diaz going here for the Angels. I was looking him up. He's a bit of a fringe prospect, nothing overly exciting when it comes down to what he's going to be doing here. On the other side, I think we want to consider Chris Flexon, because Flexon is going to be a pitching option at this point, not because of his strikeout upside, which is essentially non-existent, but because he limits power and generally limits runs. The Angels do that pretty well by themselves. If they're going to have Flexon there to help them, we could at least get positive points on this one. For the Mariners, we only have 2 games on our late slate, so most players are going to go to either the Dodgers or Milwaukee, depending on what's going on in that game. But we can look to a Mitch Haniger. We can consider a Kyle Seager, who has a career high 30 home runs. He's got 100 RBI in his age 34 goodbye season with the Mariners. I doubt they're going to bring him back. Some interesting stuff all the way around in our final game. What is your read on this? And then let's check out the Awesemo Hall of Fame.
Yeah, so Jonathan Diaz is still a new name. His last outing was against the Mariners. He did go 7 innings, 4 strikeouts, but a 9.27 ground ball to fly ball ratio. I was looking at his pitch mix in my spreadsheet right now, and his fastball averages 88.5 miles per hour with a 78.7 mile an hour average slider. And then he'll dip into a curveball rarely and a changeup at 81 miles an hour. So he is not throwing gas. And you got to imagine with pitches with that lack of velocity, he's not going to miss a lot of bats. He has just a 7.4% swing strike rate through 2 games. And I could see that going down if that's the type of velo he's got. Even though that fastball is actually graded pretty positive so far, I think that's going to be more so a product of short sample size. So Mariners getting back-to-back starts against this kid with a lot to play for. And they might be in a spot too where they'll know if they are playing for something that late at night, right? They needed one of the other teams to lose out or at least the Red Sox to lose out. So if the Red Sox won their game, and they would know by the time this game started, that would probably deflate their bubble for what they might go after tonight. So Flexon could be a rock that they lean on, but it could also not matter by the time that game starts. Flexon also somebody that doesn't really give you a lot of strikeout upside. At 8.7% swing and strike rate, sub 15% K rate to righties, 17% K rate to lefties. He will keep the ball in the park on the ground. Angels lineup maybe offers up a few more strikeouts just based on what this lineup is. And there's at least a chance maybe Ohtani sits one of these last two games. So if you ended up with a little flexing, just hoping for 15 to 18 DKP as a reasonable range outcome, I wouldn't push back, but this also could not matter by the time we get to main slate lock.
Yeah, and even in this one, it all comes. The Yankees are now in play, who we've skipped because they're on the early slate. But if they lose and Boston wins, Seattle still has a shot if they win, right? It's just like it's musical chairs, and Toronto's impacting this one. There's a variety of things that are going on, but this is what makes this time of year a lot of fun. Let's talk a little bit here before we get on out of the way for the college football DFS Live Before Lock show. We have the Awesemo Hall of Fame. I want to remind everybody that you too can be in the Awesemo Hall of Fame. All you got to do is download the Awesemo avatar from awesemo.com/avatar, place in the top 3 of any contest with over 5,000 contestants. That's top 3. That's not tying for first. You got to be top 3. If you tie and there's 2 people tied for first and 1 person in second, you're top 3. But if there's 1,000 people tied for first, you are not top 3. Tweet these wins to the Awesemo HOF account. Win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum All Access. You can also find the instructions over there at awesemo.com/avatar. Oh my God. How did I never see Flexon on my haters? You win, Gundacker. I'm giving you the dad joke card back right now as we look at the Awesemo Hall of Fame. Big one here up top. We've got, let's see, Rich G bouncing in there with $500,000. Yes, he tied for first, but that's a top 3 finish because there's 1, 2, 3 people on the podium. So, wow, that's a big one. Congrats to him. Moving on down here, we have a nice one here from Melissa, my arch enemy in Slack chat. We're always battling in the $1 head-to-head pride contest over there on DK. She rolled it on FanDuel of all places for this one. Had a single lineup, cashed out herself $750 in profit. Gotta like that. Moving along to our next one, 20K win here from Jeffrey. Hat tip to him. That's the way to go. You want to, make sure you got that old Awesemo avatar in there if you want to get it for free. He's missed out on his free 30 days. He can buy it now that he won $20,000, but he could have had 30 free days if he just had the Awesemo avatar. And then finally, we got Boss Hog Daddy Dog. Same thing. He could have got the free 30 days, but you know what? He won $4,000 and he's Boss Hog Daddy Dog. He doesn't need the Awesemo avatar to lend himself credibility with a name like that. Bomb detector, anything for us before we get on out of the way for Matt and Ben to take over college football?
So I guess overall, just both slates combined, Salvador Perez at the top of it all, 4.52. Then Renfro at 4.36 rating, and there's anything over 4 I pay attention to. A couple Red Sox up there, McCutcheon's up there, Mitch Garver, and Hunter Dozier's up there. That's kind of a sneaky one.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to get on out of here. Thank you to Jock Market for sponsoring the show. Remember, use the promo code Awesemo to get a $50 deposit bonus match with your first deposit over there on Jock Market, where they have turned daily fantasy sports into a stock exchange. With that, you can follow us at Awesemo_COM for all the fun deals and promotions. You can follow me at EMACDFS. I'm almost at 12,000 followers, a milestone. Help me get there. And you can follow Gundacker at Gundacker on the Twitter sphere. With that, gamers, good luck.